In today's video, we are going through 8 time-sucking job search myths that are out there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Katie. I'm a coach at CareerSprout. On average, it takes us about 63 days to help somebody navigate the job search process. And before 2023, the average salary bump was about $37,000 for each of our students. Now we are closer to about $74,000 in this 2023 economy. So 63 days, $74,000 pay bumps, not too bad. Part of the reason why it is such a quick time frame for us is because we remove a lot of the myths that are out there. Things like, well, I'll just walk through the list right now. Number one, your resume has to be 1 page. I can't tell you how many folks I see wasting time on their resume trying to get it perfect when the reality is all you need is keyword optimization and making sure it's on the right job boards. So a couple of these, actually most of these myths are about the resume. It does not have to be 1 page long. If you have less than 5 years of experience, you can typically keep it on 1 page, but otherwise you can do 2. And if you are fairly senior, you can even get away with 3 resume pages. Myth number 2, your resume needs to have all your work history. No, never. Well, very, very rarely, I should say. You really only need to have relevant experience on your resume and typically nothing beyond the last 10, 15 years. Myth number 3 is that you need a resume for every job you apply to. Again, I see so many folks wasting time on making multiple resumes. Of course, you always want to study, the job description before you apply. Make sure there's nothing glaringly obvious that's missing for this specific role. Obvious keywords, phrases, experience, etc. But you really should, at least for our students, they only target 1 role at a time, so they really only ever need 1 resume. All right, myth number 4, a great resume will get you the job. Unfortunately, no. That would make our lives very easy. However, not at all. It's the words that come out of your mouth when you are reaching out to folks and in the interview process. Those are what the words that you use, those are going to be what gets you the job. The resume is only one way to open that door. In my opinion, it's one of the least effective ways in today's economy. Myth number 5 is going to be that it's okay to have a few grammatical errors in your resume. Unfortunately, no. I am somebody who used to be a stickler for grammar. Over the years, I have become less of a stickler, but unfortunately, this is something that we spend quite a bit of time on with each of our clients, is making sure that there's no nitpicky errors that somebody could pick up on. Now, the next myths that we have here are going to be 2 are about the interview, one of it's about negotiations. So the first myth about interviews is that you should wait until the end of the interview to ask questions. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see folks making that is preventing them from getting to the next round of interviews. So they'll land an interview and then they end up doing, multiple first rounds, maybe even second rounds, but they're not making it to those late stages, or they're not getting offers, even worse, arguably. They're not getting offers after going through multiple rounds. So you should never wait until the end to ask your questions. Actually, our students, they typically in interviews, we always want it to be conversational and consultative. So our coaching clients, they ask the first 2 questions every single time. I've done plenty of videos on, what those questions are, so I won't waste time here. And then they also, throughout the interview, they only do about 50% of the conversation. It should feel like you are out to lunch with a friend, very relaxed, lobbing questions back and forth to each other. That's always the goal for our students, for our coaching clients. We always want it to be that conversational consultative feel, which means it's not one person asking all the questions and the other person answering. It's give and take and asking, does that answer your question? I know that was pretty high level. Is there anything I can go into? Or, I'm curious, how would you handle something like that, in this company? Very important for that to not be, it's very important for you to be asking questions throughout the entire process. Then the next interview myth, let's say, is that it is okay to brag about yourself in interviews. This is where I see so many folks go wrong, is they get nervous and anxious and they just want to prove that they can do the job. And so they talk about, how great they are or what they've been able to do in a way that is very off-putting to the interviewer. And it's usually very nuanced things where they take credit for the job getting done versus being what we call happy, humble, hungry, where they are talking about the team as a collective. They are very humble. They show how they were able to, bring folks together, or they give credit to great mentors, whatever the case may be. They never, ever, ever brag. They give quantifiable metrics that back up, pure facts in their storytelling. And they're conversational. They will say things along the lines of, oh man, when somebody asks, how would you handle this situation? They don't go on this tangent without knowing, the landscape. What they will often do is they will, bring it back to something that they have already done. And they'll say, well, I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but I've actually experienced something like this before. Here's how we handled it. Here was the result. We typically will use that STAR format. And it is very, very appealing to interviewers when you can show up in that happy, humble, hungry state of mind. Never, ever. Their interview is no place for you to be bragging. And then last but not least, something that I think people think is time saving, but it absolutely crushes me whenever I see, is that you should never, ever accept a lowball offer in today's market, especially. So yes, of course, some companies are going to offer you something that is on the lower end. Out of the gate, you should not be accepting that because you're worried about repeating the job search process. I've already done a video on this, so I won't go into the exact script, but you can just take the time to think about what is really important to you, not only in your base comp, and equity, but also the added perks, and just send one simple email just to see if there's any wiggle room on their end, so that you are not accepting a lowball offer. And I would say this is usually the most detrimental time suck because it hinders you typically not only just during the job search, but it hinders you for the next 18 months to 6 years to 10 years, however long you're going to be at that company. It is something that is going to essentially just be pulling you back, and you're going to be running with added resistance that you don't need to be, running up against. So hopefully that helps somebody out there. If you guys have any questions on, the flip side of these, or if there's anything that you are wondering if you are wasting time by doing, feel free to comment below or just send me a message, and hope you guys are having a good one. Talk soon.